Physical geography. Physical features. Volcanoes, beaches, oceans, tropical rainforests, and the Lesser Antilles. There are also lots of waterways. Climate. The Caribbean climate is tropical, moderated to a certain extent by the prevailing northeast trade winds. At sea level, there is little variation in temperature, regardless of the time of the day or the season of the year.
Vegetation. The vegetation of the region mostly tropical, but the differences in topography, soil and climatic conditions increase the species diversity. It is estimated that within the Caribbean region contains 13,000 species of plants, of which 6.5 thousand are endemic.
Natural resources. Saint Lucia. Coconut, also known as copra, which is used for the making of coconut oil. Barbados, with limestone used for the making of chalk. Jamaica, bauxite for the use of making aluminum foil. Guyana, petroleum made from crude oil. Saint Lucia, cocoa seeds to make chocolate.
History. The archaeological findings suggest that beings have migrated to the American continent between 6,000 and 10,000 BC. These dates are different from those suggested by the findings in the Caribbean region. Apparently, the migration to the Caribbean island was not done primarily but secondarily. After setting on the mainland in North America, Central America, and the northern region of South America, archaeological carbon dating placed the arrival of the first human in the Caribbean region between 3,500 and 4,000 BC.
From the start of European expansion into the Atlantic world, Britain fought other powers for territory in the Caribbean, and many islands became part of the British Empire. The region experienced near eradication and expulsion of its indigenous populations by European powers. It was also on the receiving end of the largest enforced migration ever witnessed, the transatlantic slave trade. Slavery and its resistance by enslaved Africans was an integral part of the Caribbean history. In a remarkably short period of time and in the face of such extraordinary conditions, new cultures and identities were formed in the Caribbean.
Government. Under a constitution adopted at independence on November 3, 1978, the President is head of state and is appointed by the Prime Minister following consultation with the leader of the opposition. Executive authority is vested in the President, but in the exercise of most of his executive functions, the President is required to act in accordance with the advice of the Cabinet or Minister acting under the general authority of Cabinet. The Prime Minister is the head of government and in the capacity is the chairman of the Cabinet of Ministers. Ministers are chosen by the Prime Minister from a group composed of the elected members of the country's unicameral parliament and senators appointed by the Prime Minister.
Culture, ethnic groups, Afranchi, Afro-Caribbean, Arawak people, Asian Caribbean, Belizean American, Belizean Creole people, Carib people, Chinese Caribbean, Chinese people in Costa Rica, Cubans, Jarifuna people, Gens de Couleur, German Caribbean, Indo-Caribbean, Irish Caribbean.
Japanese Caribbean, list of Afro-Latinos, Maroon people, Neo-Taino nations, Pakistani diaspora in the Caribbean, Rizal Redlegs, Taino people, White Caribbean.
Language: English, Anguilla, Bahamas, Bermuda, Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Barbados, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Montserrat, St. Lucia, Turks and Caicos, U.S. Virgin Islands, Florida Keys. Spanish: Cuba, Dominican Republic, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Central America, South America. French, Haiti, Guadeloupe, Martinique, Saint Barth, and Saint Martin. Dutch, Saint Martin, Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire, Saba, Saint Statues.
Religion. When it comes to religion, the Caribbean is dominated by Christianity. However, many different sects and cultural adaptations of Christianity can be found throughout the islands, from the religions of slaves and indentured servants to styles developed on the islands themselves. The Caribbean is full of a vibrant variety of faiths.
The region's religions became even more mixed when the islands were claimed by different nations, as they often were throughout the Caribbean's early history. But religious diversity exists even on the island that rarely or never changed hands. Slavery and indentured servitude brought many people with many different faiths to the island.
The many distinct religions in the Caribbean can be divided into Christianity, Afro-Caribbean, Creolized religions, and East Indian religions, although some may be better known than others. Christianity is by far the most dominant religion, although the popularity of specific domination varies across the region.
Food. Indigenous food. Pepper pot was the staple meal of indigenous tribes when Christopher Columbus discovered Trinidad. Today, pepper pot remains one of the traditional Caribbean foods eaten by South American tropical rainforest societies.
The essential ingredient is cassarip, a savory sauce made from the initially poisonous juice left over from processing cassava, which is mixed with peppers and boiled for several hours.
Traditional ingredients. In its original form, pepper pot was a native stew that included a wide variety of meats, fish, squash, beans, and even peanuts, which were added to the cassarip along with water, then cooked and kept simmering over an open fire in a large clay pot. Meats would have included agouti, lap, manikou, cuenc, beach, tattoo, turtle, caiman, and just about any meat, fish, or fowl available that day. The original recipe may have also included indigenous spices, native forms of cinnamon and ginger, bay, leaf, allspice, and sea salt. One of the most traditional Caribbean foods, pepper pot, was always available. It was served to visitors as a gesture of hospitality, did not need refrigeration, and the flavor improved with time and daily additions.
Ambigu. Drink. Cinderella. Sweet. Banana coconut tarts. Salt, shrimp on a rice and coconut bed. Music. Caribbean music encompasses a diverse variety of musical styles and traditions from Caribbean countries. These styles range anywhere from traditional folk genres such as Puerto Rican aguinaldo and Jamaican mento to more contemporary music such as salsa and reggae. Most music of this region combines features of music from Africa with features of music with the West. This combination began with the European colonization and slave trade, but still continues into the present. History. Traditional tribal music, which featured percussion instruments, developed but flourished along with most of Native Americans in the 1600s.
Subsequent Caribbean music emerged as a result of new relationship between African slaves and European settlers. The settler communities, as opposed to the plantation towns, attract large numbers of very different people and harbored a very lively music culture.
Styles. Most Caribbean styles may be grouped into the categories of folk, classical, or commercially popular music. A few styles, however, reflect a more European influence. The Puerto Rican, Yajairo music, and Cuban punto are the two key examples. Local forms of classical music were created in the 19th century in Cuba, and Puerto Rico was formally trained composers began to infiltrate the area. The best known forms of Caribbean music are the modern popular genres.
Today, the Caribbean is one of the most diverse and enchanting regions in the world. Exotic combination of its landscape, people, history, and culture offer the traveler a unique and inspiring experience and present it among the top 10 travel destinations in the world. Moreover, the cultural fabric of the Caribbean region is an interesting patchwork of colorful traditions. And then there are all those too familiar Caribbean tourist attractions that range from pristine coastline of West Indies to extraordinary scenery of Puerto Rico, from the flashy markets of Jamaica to the exotic landscape of Trinidad and Tobago. In short, the variety of the Caribbean's natural world is rich, endless, and yours to explore. Economy. The individual economies of the Caribbean islands are generally open to free trade. While their export bases are fairly limited, many islands are beginning to diversify their industries. Sugar, bananas, eggplant, and flowers are exported from many islands, and other crops are still grown exclusively for domestic use. The distillation of and large-scale export of rum, a well-known island product, takes place on most islands where sugar cane is grown.